Did you know that in spiritual terms, there can be words, descriptions for what we might be doing when we're silently or quietly quitting? And this will not be the same for everybody, but when we look at things like Tibetan Buddhism, we have certain principles about the way the world is. And it is seen that the world of form, so the trees, the sounds, everything around us, this is seemingly our karma, okay? So cause and effect has made that which is around us. And I actually talk about this in my book because you can also see this in creation stories and in the cosmologies of many, many tribal systems is this concept that actually, the formless realm is where everything's really from, and then it manifests into the physical realm that we understand. And so it is seen that if we want to evolve, we have to spend more time actually abiding in the formless realm to slow things down, to become more subtle as beings. And therefore, when we're really attached to drama and the senses, like, oh, this really expensive, lovely meal, or yes, I've got to listen to this nice music, or I have to have this smelly bath. When we're too in that, we actually destabilize the mind because all that's dominating us is that realm of the karmic realm, which is called samsara. Okay. And it's seen that the looping of our existence is samsara, and that the ultimate thing that we're trying to do is to not do that anymore. Okay. So there's a concept, there's something called the four convictions of renunciation. And it is seen as very, very important for us to renounce samsara. And that doesn't mean that you have to go and live in a cave and drink nettle tea for the rest of your life. But what it does mean is that embroiling yourself in just the drama and the looping of that is seen as non-advantageous. So you try to release the grip that that has on you. So we can see that maybe something's happening for us when we're silently or quietly quitting because we're starting to see that we don't want that thing to have so much of a hold on us. Maybe on a spiritual level, our body and our being sometimes knows things before we consciously know it. So some of the responses that we can be having to our life and the kind of the hamster wheel of the 9 to 5 existence, or the overtime, the mortgage, all of those things that seem never ending and are very much pitched at keeping you in debt and entrained into a functioning system that's not functioning anymore. Okay. So maybe something's going on for us, and maybe there's something naturally occurring for people where this impulse to just take a step back, to slow things down, to be more in a flow with what's around rather than meeting deadlines that keep perpetuating those cycles that actually are not really the full spectrum of existence. So it can be really useful for you to look at what's been going on for you in your journey because you may start to see that there may have been signs or hallmarks or trigger points where this journey of, okay, I realize that I really don't need to be so invested in these kind of making these targets or this growth for growth's sake because I'm stifled here. Okay, something ineffable is coming where something bigger than that target is starting to become a realization that there is something more. Okay. And of course, when we're younger, we have a lot more hormones, okay? So the testosterone-driven human who likes to compete, who loves stimuli, this is suited to younger people more than when we get older. And the empire building phase starts to lose its appeal because we kind of realize I'm just burnt out actually from the empire building phase. And we realize the volatility of everything. And something that we may or may not consciously know is that if it is true that everything is indeed cause and effect and karma, there are these deeper spiritual principles under which even success can be governed. And this is why, whilst we can predict certain market trends and things like that, Also, sometimes you can think you're doing everything right, but you're still going to fail in material level, okay? Because maybe you have certain astrology or karma that is what we call ripening at a certain point, which means that in the material realm, you're really not going to do well. But does that really actually matter? And the more we get older, we sometimes will have gone through those awful situations that seem awful on paper, but they actually become those transformation points. I'm sure you've all met people who had a lot. They were earning a lot. They were doing really well in that world. And then they had some sort of really crazy, awful life, life-threatening situation. Like they were in a terrible accident. They lost everything. And all of them that I interact with will say, that's when I started living. Okay. And so this is the karma. Sometimes we're on the wrong path because we are so busy trying to build empires. And I think when we get older, we start to realize that, okay, I survived that crash. I survived that thing. Actually, I became a better person. So we have more to relate it to, okay? And we also have probably, as we get older, we usually have got a little bit more financial stability. So the survival and the lack patterning that are usually ancestral inheritances are not driving us so much anymore. So when we start to realize, like, I actually have the stability, do I need to be there anymore? That is actually activating a really, really important part of who we are. In further transmissions, I'm going to talk about the importance of things like Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology came from very sacred ancient sages. It's a very, very precise science. It's not like what you read in the tabloid about, hey, Aries, this is going to happen to you. It's amazing. And I've been a student, I'm still kind of junior. I've been studying it deeply for 6 years now. But what I've learned is just off the charts and it helps a lot of people. And just even on a basic level, there are certain things that happen to us that are very key points in our karmic cause and effect development that happen at 42 years old and 48. So I'm going to spend some time discussing those because a lot of people, when they look, they'll start to see that life started to become more enriching, usually late 40s, early 50s. So there are a lot of astrological reasons why we can see that quiet quitting, especially in an age of technological advances, passive income, increased, at least in developed countries, increased sort of disposable income, I think is the word I want to say. This is creating something new in a way. And this is again why I want to make sure that we understand that some of this is poised to help us advance spiritually because the material world has limitations. It is not the full story. And if you are challenged by that, just start reading up on transpersonal psychology. There's a lot of evidence-based study out there, and quantum physics. We're seeing now that so much is actually about the subtle realms and the unseen realms. And as we get older, actually, of course, we are also the hold of the physical world as we, decline. Thankfully, we're not hopefully about to do that. As we're getting older, we're also getting more subtle. Okay. So it's truly a time where we can have a really enriched life. And I'm finally just going to mention Ernst Wilhelm, who's an amazing Vedic astrologer who made some wonderful videos just about really this whole thing of it getting easier around 50. And I'm going to do a little transmission about the markers of that soon so that you can really start to look at what's taking place for you. And then there are nuances that will mean that it will be focused on a certain area for different people. When we can have more insight to that, our process of silently or quietly quitting can really be for something and can really bring us into this harvest period of our life, but not just for ourselves. This is what I really want to iterate on this channel. To live a truly enriched life, we really have to be involved with all it is, okay? And to try to make life better for other people as well. And so after the honeymoon phase with the quitting and the kind of decompressing, the detox from all of that other stuff, how are we going to use that time wisely? Because we have all these skills and we have this time. This is the call to action. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Ciao, ciao.